Well, hello everyone, Steve here. It is perfect weather here in Santa Barbara. Actually, I'm on a cruise ship heading up to San Francisco. So let's go have some fun on the Valley Vlog. Well, hello everyone, Steve here, and I am in San Francisco right now. I just have a few hours. I stepped off the cruise ship at Pier 27. I'm going to go by Lombard Street and the Presidio and a few other places, so let's go have some fun. Okay, well, my first plan was to bypass the nearby but very popular Fisherman's Wharf area, since I wanted to see the city before the crowds grew. A little further down from there was another popular area. It's the Ghirardelli Square and its chocolate company. Founded by Domenico Ghirardelli, this company has been in San Francisco since the 1850s. While there's other Ghirardelli locations around the country, I'd say this was the most famous one. It's the original. I've never been in this one, so I just had to check it out. And I heard there was also a free chocolate sample when you entered, which happened to be true that day. Of course, inside there was a store where you could buy all the chocolate you wanted and in the shape of their signature miniature squares. It was very popular inside. In the back there was a cafe where you could try their sundaes, shakes, and other chocolate treats. I wanted to see a display that I had heard about. It was a simulation of the traditional chocolate milling process, complete with stone rollers. While Ghirardelli makes their chocolate at another location, it's one of the few American companies to own their entire chocolate-making process. Still, I decided to save my appetite for something else and see the outside square. The Ghirardelli Square is an open courtyard with just a few shops and a signature fountain. It's a great place to do some people watching or just have a coffee and relax. Speaking of coffee, that reminds me of another location not too far from here that has a coffee drink as part of its history. It's the Buena Vista Cafe, and to some it's a must-visit. It's said to be the birthplace of the Irish coffee back in 1952, and doesn't seem to have changed much over the years. It's one of the oldest restaurants in the city, first opening its doors in 1916 when a boarding school converted it into a saloon. But my taste buds were for something a bit heartier than coffee, and I decided to make a quick stop at a California favorite. It's actually the only one in San Francisco. The residents said they like it too. With my legs starting to get tired, it was suggested that I rent one of these three-wheeled gas vehicles that had a GPS audio guide on it. I saw a lot of them in the city. They look fun and all, but I like to get around in something a bit more iconic. Speaking of icons, when in San Francisco, I always like to ride its most famous mode of transportation, the cable cars. And while you can get on at various stops, I like to go to the terminus of the line. There you can see the trolley conductors use the turntable to reverse its direction, all by using nothing but human power. The cable cars have been around since the 1870s, when there were over 30 lines throughout the city. Today there's only 3, but I think they're the best way to travel in San Francisco, which also has a great public transportation system. After standing in line, I realized how popular these cars were going to be, and finding a seat up front so I could video was going to be tough. They weren't wanting anyone hanging off the side. Actually, when it was my turn to board, this was my view. It wasn't so interesting, so I had to be creative and I asked the brakeman if I could go outside and share his platform, which he kindly agreed. I have to say this video doesn't do it justice on just how fun it was to ride the cable car in San Francisco. I thought it was thrilling. I had arrived at my destination, and it was just a few feet off the tracks. It's known to some as the most crooked street on earth. Lombard Street. Luckily, I just happened to get there at the right time, since normally there's a long line of cars waiting to make the journey. Built in 1922, this one-way section is about 600 feet long and is paved with red bricks. Its 8 sharp turns help make its natural 27% grade drivable. It normally sees around 250 vehicles per hour and is home to some friendly and patient residents. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but at the time I didn't see the sign that asks you not to walk in the street. But once I did, I took the stairs that you can find on both sides of the street. It's a lot safer to do this too. Down at the bottom of the street, I found there were just as many people looking up at it taking pictures as there were looking down. At the corner of Leavenworth and Lombard Street, you can find the view that most people think of. The one thing I hadn't planned on, though, was the need to make my way up the street to get back to where I wanted to go. Obviously, this wasn't going to be easy, but it was just as picturesque. With my legs now starting to feel like wet noodles, I was in search of another famous city icon, and I knew it would be equally impressive if I could just get there. I certainly found it within this 17-acre park. Alongside of an 1,100-foot-long colonnade, complete with eucalyptus trees and a lake, is the Palace of Fine Arts. It's a monumental structure located in the Marina District. It was originally constructed for the 1915 Panama Pacific Exhibition to exhibit works of art, but it was completely rebuilt in the 1960s. It was conceived to evoke a feeling of an ancient Roman ruin. It's one of San Francisco's most recognizable landmarks. Its 162-foot-high open rotunda is very impressive to walk beneath. Today, instead of exhibitions, well, you're more likely to see a few Hollywood movies filming here, along with the occasional wedding proposal. I think the whole area is beautiful and very peaceful. Not far from the Palace of Fine Arts, I found an entrance to another wonderful area that had an even longer history. Going back to the late 1700s as a Spanish fort and later a U.S. Army post, these 1,400 acres are now overseen by the California State Park System. Wow, this feels like a college campus. Very peaceful, very shaded, and today it's cold, but what a wonderful place. The Presidio. It's a great place to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city. I luckily found a Starbucks to temporarily rest my weary feet. I even made a friend. The first indication that I was on the right path was when I came across this statue of a man. He was an early photographer in San Francisco, and his name was Edward Muybridge. He invented a way to photograph things with intermittent motion. His zoopraxiscope was an early inspiration for the motion picture projector. This clip shows his experiment, the horse in motion from 1878. Up ahead, I could see a well-known sky bridge spanning 2 buildings. It was the Letterman Digital Arts Center. I guess you could say if you were on that sky bridge, you might be a skywalker. Not far from there, you'll find a quiet courtyard with a fountain. Atop it is a bronze statue in the likeness of a certain 900-year-old Jedi Master who knows the ways of the Force. Installed in 2005, this popular Yoda Fountain marks the entrance to Industrial Light and Magic, the successful movie effects company founded by George Lucas, who also created the Star Wars franchise. But I wanted to see what was behind it. It was the lobby, and I learned from several websites that it was open to the general public. Of course, I should have known. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, they decided to keep the lobby closed to employees only. Still, I was able to see inside. There was a famous statue of King Kong animator Willis O'Brien. There was also a whole bunch of movie props, in addition to a few famous faces that were familiar to me, along with most Star Wars fans. Well, at least I got to see it a little bit, and that makes me happy. It's always been on my bucket list to see the Yoda statue. With all of that out of the way, and it getting late, I thought I'd retrace some of my steps, and also visit some public art before heading back to the ship. My dad was waiting for me, for us to have dinner together and depart for other destinations.
That's good wine.
Thank you so much for watching this video to the very end. My channel doesn't have that many subscribers at this point, so I just make these videos for fun. If you enjoyed it, well, here's a few more you might like. But most important, a very big thank you to all those who liked, subscribed, and left positive comments about the videos. You've made them a joy to make. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.